excited about this. I've known of Victoria for some time, but we actually met a couple of weeks ago, and she is an author, she's a community leader, but one of her books that intrigued me greatly was How to Negotiate Without Freaking Out. And I thought, that's a great title, because as I think about it, you know, Europeans, they negotiate everything. Your kids, they negotiate. If you have kids, you understand, I'll be a good kid if you let me do this. You know, they're always negotiating a deal. But as adults, we were kind of timid in that direction. And so I thought that was a great title, and that's going to be her subject today. She's actually going to share 12 different tips on how to negotiate, but she's going to give a real life story behind it, so you can see how it's applied. I think this is going to be one of the most incredible learning luncheons that we've had. Without further ado, Victoria Slater. Let's welcome her.
Like Neil said, I'm Victoria Slater, and I've written How to Negotiate Without Freaking Out. So what I'm going to do today is I'll give you a bit of my background, and that is to let you know why you should listen to me. And then I'm going to tell you why I wrote the book. I'm going to go through my 12 tips, and then if we have time, I'd like to open it up for Q&A. I love Q&A because that way you guys can take what you've learned and apply it to your lives and your businesses and ask specific questions. All right, so when I was about 9 years old, my father was in the Air Force. We were stationed in Spain. And we would go to the Madrid flea market, and I would watch my dad haggle with the local vendors. And I thought, if I did that, then my allowance would go even further. And so that was my start in negotiating. Well, cut to a few years later, and I'm working in the entertainment industry. And when you're making a film or a TV show, everything gets negotiated. And so I learned how to negotiate, and I was just sort of a natural at it. So I just got better at it. I learned from other people and just kept building my skills. Well, then I would tell my girlfriends or friends, hey, you know, I just did this deal, and I tell them about it, and they go, wow, how'd you do that? And so I'd begin to explain it. And then they started coming to me with their situations and saying, well, how do I handle this? And I started to advise them. And then, of course, they said, well, you should write a book. Well, everybody should write a book, right? So I thought about it, and then I read this book called Women Don't Ask. And I'm so glad to see a lot of women in the audience, because you are who I wrote the book for. In Women Don't Ask, these researchers, their theory as to why there's disparity in income between men and women for the same job is because men will negotiate even fresh out of college for their salary, and women won't. And so what happens is, you know, usually your increase, your bonus, is based on a percentage of your salary. And so what happens through the years? Right? So I thought, okay, I'm going to write this book for women to help them. And are there a lot of great negotiating books out there? Yeah. But when I looked around, there was nothing that was essentially the 101 of negotiating, where you made it very simple. I developed these 12 tips, and I give real-life examples in my book, available on Amazon.com. So so that's my background, the reason why I wrote the book, and now I'm going to go into my tips. All right, so number one, ask, right? So simple. But we forget to. We don't think about it. Just had a recent situation where my husband and I are helping to produce what's called a sizzle reel for a guy who had a very bad health experience at a hospital, and so now his mission in life is to bring back compassion to health care. And so he's trying to create a documentary, and he needs a sizzle reel to raise money. And the way we wrote it is that it needs a voiceover artist. And so we found this guy. He's got a great, what we call, national voice. And but we're not paying for it. We're doing it for free for our friend, with the proviso that if he is able to raise money, he will pay us. And so he asked the voiceover artist, well, how much do you charge? And the guy said, well, I'll do this for $7.50. And so he says, is that a good price? And I said, well, yeah, we think it is, but here, why don't you try this? Ask him if he will take $500, and then if you raise money, you will pay him an additional $500. So you see that negotiation. Now, he didn't think to ask. I had to tell him to think to ask. So that's the whole thing. I was sent to South Africa for a year to do development deals. And this is way back when there was VHS. Yes, I'm dating myself. And there was such a voracious hunger for product. And so South Africa had this tax deal that they were doing, and so went over there and we were making these deals. And the gentleman that I was working for, he owned a chain of theaters in South Africa. And he taught me two very important life lessons. He said, the no you have, the yes maybe you can get. He was Dutch, so I always do the accent. I said, let me repeat that. The no you have, the yes maybe you can get. So in other words, you don't ask, you don't get. That's how we say it here. So that's something to always remember. Number one tip, ask, is because why not? You already have the no. Try and get the yes. So go for it. Tip number two, know what you want. So that requires some research. And the benefit of today is research. Google, it's so easy to find information. So you may need to do a little background check, or what do people usually get paid for this type of job with this amount of experience, with this certification, or what do plumbers charge for this kind of thing. So you just do your research, and then it's helpful because you have a strong stance when you go in to negotiate, because you know what you want, right? Now, will you always get it? Not necessarily, but you might get close, and who knows, you might get even more than you expected. And then also with that is you always want to know your walk away. At what point in the deal are you willing to just walk away because it just doesn't work for you? Number three, don't start where you want to end. I love to watch Pawn Stars and what's that other one? Not Antiques Roadshow, but Antique Archaeology. Anyway.
Mike Wolf.
Yes, Mike Wolf, him. American Pickers, thank you, yes. Because if you watch them, how they negotiate, you will learn from them. And they don't start where they want to end. In fact, sometimes on Pawn Stars, I'll see a guy come in and they do the pre-interview, and then he says, well, how much do you want? And he says exactly what he said. It's like, no, don't start there. Start higher than there. You can always go down. You can't go up. So it's a game. And you do have to learn culture. Some cultures, negotiating is not good, but most cultures, it's expected, and it's a game. So play the game, have fun. Up the ladder. The first person you talk to in a negotiation is not necessarily the person you need to speak to. Sometimes you need to go up the ladder. So for instance, every year I negotiate my cable fee, my cell phone fee, my internet fee, and the first person you'll call is a customer service person. And they will say, oh, well, I'm sorry, we can only do blah, 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 and they're telling the truth. They're limited as to what they have authority to do. But if you go to customer loyalty or customer whatever, they all have something different to say, then that's where you can get the deal you want. So now I'm going to give you a freebie here. Call your cell phone company. Call your internet provider. Call your cable or whoever you get your TV from and ask them for a 20% discount or a $20 discount, and I bet you get it like right off the bat. If you're going to be brave, go to customer loyalty and ask for 40% off your bill, and I bet you get it because they want to keep your business. So I want to hear back from you guys when you've done this. Save, okay, $20 a year? $20 a month, how much is that a year? Thank you, yes. $240, free tip, there you go. I challenge you to do it. Okay, tip number 5, watch the language and body posture of the person you are negotiating with and yourself. It's like playing poker. You get feedback from, are they starting to get terse? Are they having a sense of humor? Are they having fun? Are they getting stiff? So just kind of keep an eye on that. And yourself. So often it's like, would you take? No, don't do that. Make an offer. Be strong. Look them in the eye. Number 6, have a reason. I call that my secret spice of negotiating. You'd be amazed at how effective having a reason. Now, never tell a lie, but if you give a reason as to why you are asking for what you want. Okay, you're going in to negotiate a new salary, and they offered you 3% and you want 5%. So you say to them, I deserve the 5% because I get here before everybody else does in the morning. I've been able to gain this amount of customers for you, and I just got certified in a new thing. You give a reason. You're shopping for a car. My daughter's going off to college. She needs a decent car. I will worry about her. Our budget is tight. Would you be willing to take $500 less than what you're asking? So you have a specific reason. Again, never lie, but it is highly effective. Number 7, take the pieces apart or bundle them up. It depends on the situation. Like when I go to my car mechanic and he has all these items, of work he's done, it's like, well, can you give me $20 off here and, a little bit here and, so we lower the total. Or you can go to a company that you've ordered a bunch of stuff from and say, look, I just ordered a big order and I plan to order more. Can you give me 25% off the total? So that's, you just have to look at the specific situation. Have it up. Often you will quit too early. So you want 700. I offer you 650. You go, oh, okay, 650. Instead of, well, how about 675? Yeah. So that's $125 difference. So you just remember, keep having it as far as you can until you watch the body posture and they start to look irritated. Right. And that's the thing with these is, and I show this in my book, is that these tips work together. Number 9, get multiple quotes. Always found when I worked in the industry, like I need walkie-talkies. So I'd call at least 3 different companies to get quotes on the walkie-talkies that I needed. And they would go, if the prices ranged highly, I knew there was latitude in there. If they all were charging about the same price, then I knew that was the going rate. And maybe I could have a little wiggle room negotiating, but that was pretty much it. So always, if you can, get multiple quotes. When my husband and I, we owned a house in California, had bought it, and we looked at the roof and got, okay. So the first company that came, they said, oh, wow, this is going to cost you thousands of dollars because we have to bring a crane and we have to take the air conditioning unit off the roof before we can redo your roof, right? The next company said, oh, well, we don't need a crane to do that. We can, but it's thousands of dollars. And then the third company said, you don't need a new roof. You've got another 5 years on that roof. And when we sold the house, was the roof one of the things that came up? No, it was not. So always good to get several quotes. Number 10, be firm but nice. Like I said earlier, as you're watching your posture, you look them in the eye, you shake their hand, you're going in for a salary increase, right? You look them in the eye, you're pleasant, but you're firm because you're confident that you deserve what you're asking for. Remember I told you the Dutch millionaire gave me 2 lifetime tips? Well, number 11 is the second one. Do the math. Sometimes there are deals that sound good, but when you actually do the math, they aren't as good. In this instance, it's like we were doing films with local South African production companies, and what we offered was the international distribution. So we were going to give them 50% of the profits. Wow. Well, the thing is you did the math of all the costs that come out of it. Like, for instance, many people don't know that local theaters, they take 50% of the box office, right? Then 30% goes to the distributor. That leaves 20%. And then your production costs, your insurance, your marketing costs all have to come out of that. So by the time you get done taking care of all the costs, are there any profits? No, and that's how Hollywood works. Number 12. Whoever gets angry first loses. There is no doubt that negotiations can become contentious. I learned this one the hard way. When my husband and I first moved here, we looked for our dream house, we couldn't find it, and then we found this lot in a great area and decided to build. And then we had the classic nightmare experience with our builder. And we used to go in these meetings, and I have this expression for women, is don't threaten the nest. Our nest is very important to us, our home. And if you threaten my home, that is very dangerous. Don't threaten a woman's nest. And this guy was threatening my nest, and I would get so angry. And then a mutual friend of ours pulled me aside and told me, it's not doing you any good. In fact, it's hurting you. So I learned that the hard way, and I've shared that with many friends, and it has benefited them greatly. And then, because you always want to give more than is expected, I have a bonus tip, tip number 13. Be fair. Everyone deserves to make a living. So in these difficult times, and when I wrote this book, gosh, the economy was booming and everything was great, and I thought, well, it's always good to have this kind of tip anyway, we're heading into some tough times. And so remember, you may have the upper hand now, but that might be reversed later. And so always be fair. Not to say you don't try and make a good deal, but be fair. So that's it. Q&A.
Can I give a couple of examples? She ignited some memories for me. So many of you know that in my past life, I was a contractor, but I owned a clothing store in LA, and I did clothing manufacturing in the garment district. And the garment district isn't that big. It's just really 3 or 4 blocks and a couple blocks wide. But in there is every nationality. So you got from the fabric people, which generally would be Koreans, some Chinese in there. You've got the actual manufacturing, which would be usually the Mexicans did the layout and cutting of the material. So on and so forth. But before I did that manufacturing, I'm negotiating because the garment district was about 20, 30 minutes away if there's no traffic in LA, right? So 2 hours if during traffic. So each one of those cultures had a different way of negotiating. So when I met with the Chinese, they would order, now this would be on the manufacturing side, they'd make a big order, okay? They didn't pay anything up front. And you went ahead and went through it. You generally get a loan. I forget what they call that type of loan, but it's a temporary loan because you got a contract and it's a guaranteed thing. So it helps you buy the goods and such until you get paid. Well, they didn't pay. So, and they delay and delay and delay until you absolutely needed that money. And it's generally when the goods were made. And they say, well, and they would ask stupid questions. This is what I learned. They would ask stupid questions where the manufacturer goes, got this one, got this one, got this one, because they're idiots until the last day. And then they go, well, we've been thinking about this contract. Now they become brilliant. And they'd always negotiate then. And it's down. You're almost willing to take pennies on the dollar because you're into this big time. You got to repay that loan. So there was those. Each one had its own type of negotiating skills. The ones that I liked the most were the Arabs. The Arabs were a fun, friendly bunch. And they always started high. Okay, and then you'd say no, and you turn and just walk out. But with each step you took, the price went down. If I had sat there or stood there face to face with them, the negotiations wouldn't have gone very well. But as you turned, and with each step, it went down, down, down to something I could afford. So those are just some of the skill sets that you reminded me of. And because there's all those different cultures in that little district, it was a great experience, but I learned a lot about international cultures and their negotiating skills. They all negotiate. Who's questionable?
I guess for myself, like you mentioned, a lot of like negotiations between employee and employer. So if you're a small business owner, or you're out on your own, are there any examples you have of kind of, more of that talking to prospective clients or that type of thing?
Well, can you clarify, because at first you were talking about yourself and your employees, and then you were talking about your clients. So what, I'm not understanding.
I'm saying I don't have employees.
Okay, oh, you don't. It's just between you and your clients.
Right, yeah.
Right. And so you want to increase your fee, is that the idea?
Well, I was just wondering if you have any, say that could be one example, exactly. Or examples of like, I guess things that would be helpful in a sales situation.
Well, if your question is that you want to ask more for your services, because getting clients, that's a whole other thing. That's a marketing thing. That's not me. But if you are looking to raise your fees, then you just have to say, I'm sorry, I hate to do this, but my costs have increased. And for me to survive and continue offering you my services, then this is what I have to do. And you try and make it as palatable and mutually serving as you can. Another way to do it would be, I've raised my fees. If you don't like it, screw you. Which one is going to work better, right? Well, so true, yes. Some people like to be abused, yeah. So does that answer your, have I answered your question? Yeah. Okay, all right. I know you're put on the spot. Yeah, it wasn't fair to you. Ladies, I want to hear from you. Come on. You have a question?
Here we go.
Okay, so I want to hear more about your whoever gets angry first loses. You said that's not good to get angry first. And
Right.
What happens when you do, and then
Okay,
what happens when you don't?
yeah. If you find yourself getting angry, then put a pause. Say, look, I need to step away for a minute. Don't make a deal. Don't make a negotiation while you're angry. Step away and say, I'll call you later. I'll have to get back to you. But yeah, you need to step away and calm down. Now, if the other person is getting angry and you are staying calm, who has the advantage? Yeah.
So you're saying you should try to get them angry?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I'd say if they do get angry, take advantage of it.
I just feel like we're getting into husband-wife stuff now.
Well, and that's the beauty of it too, is that these tips will work with relationships. You know, if you take, so if you take and apply them,
But it sounded like you had
Yeah.
another comment.
So a follow-up, like what do you do to walk the line between being assertive and not causing offense?
You have to gauge the situation. Every person, every situation is different. And that's why one of my tips is watch their body language, watch how they're speaking, watch how you're reacting to it. And as you're gauging that, and the thing is that you will learn along the way as you get better. That's why I wrote the book. It's negotiating 101. I mean, like I said, there's like at least a dozen really great higher end, 404 negotiating books out there. But there was nothing that was just real simple and easy to follow, and so that's why I wrote it. So it was to put your foot into the water and give it a try. And so that's what I'm saying to everybody. If you don't have the habit of negotiating, then start, give it a shot. And probably the hardest thing is a salary negotiation. And so the suggestion I give in the book is practice. Practice with a friend, someone you feel comfortable with, who can role play, and then do it again, and maybe do it with somebody else, and have them look at your resume and your list of qualifications. And an example, a friend of mine went to negotiate her salary, and she forgot to put that she was bilingual in California. Highly valuable. And so, your friend, you may not think enough of yourself that your friends see you better sometimes, because you're like, well, it's just me, and so I speak another language. Oh, that's no big deal, but it is. And so if you can have your friends look at your resume and look at your practice with you that negotiation, but that can apply to any kind of negotiation. You with business owners, practice it with a couple friends. Say, hey, this is my business, this is what I'm doing, and they can give you feedback. And as you get that feedback, you build confidence. And just like any sport, the more you do it, the better you get at it, the more confident you feel about it. So that's one thing to do. But yeah, the anger thing, the relationship thing, you just gotta remember to be aware. Keep aware of how they're looking, what they're saying. I try and use humor when I negotiate. If I'm in a heavy negotiation with somebody about something, I'll say, well, look, I don't mind giving you some of my money, I just don't want to give you all of my money. And they usually laugh at that, and so we go on from there. But yeah, I try and keep it light and good and mutually beneficial. A good negotiation is a win-win. Sir?
One of the comments about anger, would you say, would you agree with the idea, don't take it personal in negotiating?
Yeah, try to. And see, that goes back to salary negotiations. That's, I think, why they're so tough, is because it is a combination of business and personal. I mean, it's what you're doing, but it's also you doing that. And so, yeah, if you can, try not to take it personal. And that is the thing, you know, again, something I mentioned in my book is that your HR person, who's maybe the person negotiating with you for your salary, is not responsible to you. She or he is responsible to your shareholders. Or a person hiring you for a position in any kind of law firm or sales position or whatever, they're not trying to be mean, they're trying to be responsible to their bosses and their shareholders. And so if you're willing to take their first offer, then why should they offer more? Yeah, ladies, come back, do your research before. What do people in this position get paid? What are the guys getting paid? Do they have the same amount of experience as you? Do they have the same number of certifications or qualifications or whatever for that position? And then go in there with a smile on your face and a firm handshake and look them in the eye and negotiate. Yeah. Anybody else? I know you from Coffee and Concepts, don't I? Yeah. Nice to see you.
And by the way, she brought, it's $10, right?
Yeah, I brought some books if you want them. They're also available on Amazon, $10 in cash. And then I also, if you want business cards, I brought those because I love to hear from you. I love to hear back what you thought of the presentation, how I might do it differently, how it might be more helpful to you, or if you've gone and made a negotiation and you want to share it with me. I also have a Facebook page for the book just for that purpose, so that we can encourage each other to continue to go out there and negotiate and have winning deals.
So you have business cards. Do you do one-on-one sessions with people that maybe don't feel strong in this area and you help coach them? Yes,
I do. And then also, I've been putting this out there if anybody, wants to help me with this, react to this, is that I've been thinking about developing workshops where you can come and practice, because that is very helpful. I mean, it's one thing in theory, another thing when you go to actually do it. I hired a lot of production assistants in the entertainment industry, and they'd be fresh out of film school, and they think they know it all, and it's like, so it's the same thing with everything, it's just a matter of reality versus fantasy of what it really is like in the trenches. And so anyway, I've been thinking about doing this and gathering some other female entrepreneurs to create these workshops and have them maybe, biannually, quarterly at the resort, because I don't want to travel. Go and speak elsewhere is, I don't want to do that. I don't want to leave my dogs and my husband, and I want to get on a plane. So I've thought of developing them here and having them at the resort, and have other people fly in to do that and offer that, workshop negotiations with maybe something else, some other aspect of business.
You can offer VHS tapes when you're done too.
There you go, yes. Or there'll be no more players, yes. Even DVD, so long ago. All right, anything else? All right, well, if you'd like, come get a business card and a book if you want. And, what do you think of the book?
No, very useful. I know great content. I don't do
There you go. Yeah, you have your walk away. You know what you want. There you go.
Yeah, and when they say, oh, when did you do it for less, I just say,
Right.
there's
He's
way
very
too
nice
much,
about it.
there's
Right.
way too much stress in, managing some of these life savings to do it
Right.
for less. I'm just
Yeah.
not willing to do it.
Yeah, good for you.
But,
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's your walk away.
Well,
Yeah,
it's smart.
and then they have the choice. They can stay or go.
You don't want,
Go ahead.
so you get Michael at a discount and he presents it. Is that really who you want running your retirement plan?
Good point. Yes, absolutely. Good point.
I did start a wedding DJ company, so there'll be plenty of negotiating in my future. Because people are going to want to know, can I get the fog machine for free? Stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So that'll be fun,
Yeah.
but I haven't gotten that. I got my first job in December for that, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, no, I'll let you know when I have some negotiating to share with you.
Okay. I think we have another question.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been in business for 25 years, and one thing I learned a long time ago was to work for people who I get along with, who I like, that respect me in business. And I'll go in negotiations from making an offer to saying, I'm not going to be able to help you. And because I do that, and I don't lower my prices substantially to get jobs, I have a high rating, and I'm highly recommended. So I think there's a lot to be said about knowing when to call it and just walk away. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and believe me, I know clients can be annoying. And yeah, we've fired a few ourselves. Yeah, retired now, except for the book. All right, thank you very much.